Ever since I can remember, I knew that there was something different about me compared to the other kids. And I remember I would constantly raise a question like, does everybody feel this way? Is it normal? Like we all feel this way, but we are supposed to go around and pretend like we don't feel different than everybody. I had this idea from a very young age that I was a robot. And I remember the specific day where I was standing in the bathroom and I was looking at my hands and like processing the fact that like I'm in this body, like this is me, but always feeling detached from my physical form. And on top of that, just disconnected from everybody else. There was something in me that always felt so different that I was like, I felt like everybody else had a manual that I didn't, and that they knew something was wrong with me, but my goal was to pretend to be as much like them as I could, and they weren't allowed to tell me either, like, and help me, even though they knew. And everybody knew that something was different about me, but they couldn't tell me. They weren't supposed to tell me. That's how I felt from age like 6. I learned how to mask from a very young age. I remember being even like 4 or 5 and looking at everybody before acting and trying to mimic their behaviors. And I would look and I would see that these couple girls were the best received by everybody else. They seemed to be well liked. And so I would learn to mimic their behavior. And that was how I got by. And sometimes I wouldn't do it very well. And like, I didn't know who I was for a very long time. It probably wasn't until I was like 19 that I started like to figure out my own sense of self a little bit. And then not until I was 21 a few years ago when I was diagnosed and everything started making so much more sense to me. And I realized that the way that I'd been living my life, like, it's not the way that everybody else lives it. And I had suspected it ever since I was maybe 12. There was like a good almost 10 years where I was researching into anxiety and depression and OCD and ADHD, and I really thought that I had it, but I didn't have the opportunity to get diagnosed until I was 21. And with that validation from people who are, who have the right credentials to diagnose and recognize it and everything, I went through, like, I reviewed my whole life through the lens of, yes, you had ADHD this whole time. It wasn't something that you could try harder to get out of, like constantly being late, being clumsy. And like, I remember being so upset at myself for constantly breaking my phones because I was trying my absolute hardest to not drop things, to not break anything, to not spill things. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. I couldn't stop. And so it felt like something was wrong with me, and everybody's telling me I'm not trying hard enough when I know that I'm trying as hard as I can.